Hello and welcome to Full Disclosure, a podcast project conceived exclusively to let me spend more time with interesting people than I would ever get on the radio. I'm quite excited about this one. Jimmy Anderson, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Does everyone call you Jimmy?
Most people do. Yeah.
What if you've been naughty? Does your mum still call you James?
My mum actually hates Jimmy.
Does she?
Yeah.
When did it stick? School?
No, it was cricket.
Was it?
Yeah, probably when I was...
Call him Jimmy, that's not his name. Call him James. So she still calls you James?
Yeah.
It's funny. I can date my life by what people call me. So from Jimbo to Jim to James. But I was never a Jimmy. I always quite fancied a Jimmy, but it never stuck for me.
I'm getting Jim as I get older as well, which I hate.
I always think of my dad. My dad was Jim. So I say Jim, and I go, where is this? But anyway, it must be weird when you're a successful sportsman, a beyond successful sportsman, when you're a generational success. I can't think of any other job where other grown men become gibbering schoolboys when they meet you. Do you notice it, or is it just your common experience?
Occasionally, yeah, I do notice it. But yeah, it's sort of. I think it's more the last sort of 5 years.
Right,
it's been really noticeable. Sort of, yeah, guys that are older than me will be fit or seem genuinely nervous that they're talking to me, which I find strange. Yeah.
I don't find it strange at all. I know exactly how they feel. I don't know why it is, but I could sit down with Hollywood actors or prime ministers, but sport does something to us that is genuinely unique, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does, and I'm sure there's sports people out there that I'd maybe feel similar about if I met them.
Daley Thompson was a big one for you growing up.
Yeah, massive. There's a few growing up actually. Boris Becker as well was another one. And I it just made me think about when I did get quite nervous. I was got invited to the Royal Box at Wimbledon, and I was sat in the seat behind Boris Becker. And it took all my willpower not to sort of tap him on the shoulder and try and shake his hand.
There's probably etiquette as well in the Royal Box, isn't there? Things you're not supposed to do. We should begin at the beginning, which is in 1982 in Burnley. I mean, it was a cricket-obsessed household by all accounts, but you wouldn't have known that when you were a baby. Do your early memories involve bats and balls? Yeah,
definitely. My dad and my uncle played. My granddad. Their dad played. It was a general love of sport, really. We had season tickets for Burnley Football Club as I think I started going on there when I was like 5 years old. And that would be like our family trip out at the weekend, Saturday afternoon, you go and watch the football. So yeah, it was probably more sport obsessed than cricket itself. And I was fortunate enough as I started growing up that I had a cousin who was a similar age. We'd play football together. My granddad has a little 3/4 snooker table that we'd play on, and just got into every sport. I used to watch snooker in black and white when I was a kid at my granddad's house on his black and white TV. So it was just everything, anything with a ball, anything that was sort of mildly competitive, I was obsessed with.
And this was obviously encouraged by mum and dad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they were very supportive and gave me the opportunity to play all sports as a kid.
And did you start dreaming young? Did you start, because I guess everybody thought that one day they'd be a professional sports person, but for most of us it was a highly unlikely development.
Yeah, well, I always dreamt of it, but it was very unlikely for me. I was distinctly average at cricket.
Really?
At school, like as a kid, I didn't stand out. I played for Burnley, the club where my dad and my uncle played. There were 6 or 7 better players in the team at my age group than me. But I was always dreaming. Like I'd be bowling against the garage door, thinking I'm Darren Gough or whoever. I'd be playing football in the back garden, thinking I was Ian Wright. I wanted to be. I wanted to feel what I saw them feel on the TV when Darren Gough got a wicket, when Ian Wright scored a goal. I wanted that feeling of like elation that you could see on their face, and I was trying to just imitate that the whole time.
That's really interesting. So it was almost an emotional connection rather than a physical one. I've spoken to Gary Lineker about this, and he says there is no better feeling than when you score a goal.
Yeah.
For England, I guess, more than for your club. But you were picking on that at a really early age.
Yeah, but I don't think I sort of made the link at that time. But when I, writing the book and looking back on it, that is definitely, what sort of drew me towards those players. Even Boris Becker as a tennis player, watching him at Wimbledon.
He fell to the ground, didn't he? He's 17 years old.
Amazing, yeah. 17, the athleticism, the diving volleys at the net. I was trying to copy them in my front room. And it was that kind of, the emotion of everything that drew me towards sport.
We'll get on to your school days, but let's jump ahead a little bit. Tell me about the process by which you whittled it down from snooker, football, and down to cricket. How did that happen, given the unpromising beginnings?
I think cricket was, even though I wasn't like standout ability, I think cricket was the sport that I really resonated with, just because of the team nature of it. But it was an individual sport. Spending hours on a Saturday afternoon in a dressing room with a group of guys that were all different ages from all walks of life, I think really opened my eyes up to the world. So I kind of loved that experience. I look forward to the weekends and playing cricket. Look forward to the evening training sessions. And then, it wasn't until I was sort of 15 that I actually grew a bit taller, started bowling a bit faster, and then, people started taking note and saying maybe there's something there that we could work with.
Are you conscious of the physicality when you're sort of 13, 14? Do you know that you're going to need to spur? I watched Kidderminster Harriers get beaten in the semi-finals of the playoffs last Saturday, and the other side, Chester, had a player who was brilliant but short. And
right.
As an armchair expert, you sit there thinking if he was a foot taller, he'd be playing in the Premier League. Are you aware of that when you were a kid?
No, I don't think so. I didn't think that growing would make me a better cricketer at that point. I just remember, I had 6 months. I think it was not a long period of time where I did feel in pain, like I could feel my bones hurting. I didn't really know what it was at the time, but my mum would say, "Oh, it's growing pains. You'll be fine." And then all of a sudden, I'm, tall, as tall, if not taller, than most of the guys in my year at school, and the cricket started getting better.
That changed everything. It's about fulcrums and all of. I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought you would. I thought you'd interrupt me then and use all the right lingo. Pendulums.
I mean, it's hard to think whether, like, I don't look at cricketers and think if that guy was a foot taller, he'd bowl quicker.
Sure. Because you get anomalies as well, don't you?
Yeah.
You get some players who don't fit any kind of stereotype of
definitely
what you need to look
definitely. Like. But it obviously helped.
Back to school then. But Catholic, both Catholic schools. Is it a Catholic family?
Yeah, my mum's side. Yeah,
on your mum's side. So that meant something to her.
Yeah.
And so did you do the altar boying and all that sort of stuff? Did you?
No, I did the choir.
Did you?
I was in the choir at school. Sang a few times in church, which was an experience in itself. Like we'd have afternoons off school singing at services or funerals and things like that.
Gosh.
So yeah.
St Mary's Roman Catholic Primary School.
Yeah.
And then St Theodore's High School in Burnley, where they didn't play cricket.
Yeah.
What before we get there, what were you like at primary school? Were you a happy little fella?
I can't really remember. I guess I felt happy. It was a mixed primary school, and yeah, I did enjoy it. It's not like the work's particularly
taxing,
difficult. We've got to play football at each break time, lunchtime. Playing tig with the girls in the playground. The typical sort of, typical primary school kid, I reckon. And
lessons? Did you enjoy studies and stuff like that?
I did then, yeah. But once I got to high school, that's when I just didn't really enjoy it. It was an all-boys school. which I think did have an effect on me. It was just constant sort of, some people call it banter, but it was sort of it got me down and made me eventually feel like I didn't want to go to school.
Really?
And to the point where I didn't go to school.
Really?
Only for a few days, but I
couldn't face it.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to tell my mum and dad about it. So my mum would drop me off at school, and then I'd walk a little bit towards school. She'd drop me off at the bottom of the road. So I'd walk as if I'm going to school, and then I'd walk 3 miles in the other direction, sort of out of Burnley, get a sandwich on the way, and walk back to school for pickup time.
Because it wasn't banter. Was it, really? You were being bullied?
Yeah. But,
So it's a hard word to say when you're that age, because it makes you feel like you've failed.
Yeah. I mean, I think back then as well, there was a feeling that if I said anything to my parents, they'd say, you've got to stand up for yourself or whatever. But I knew that would just make it worse if I tried to stand up to some of the guys. They're bigger than me and more confident than I was. So it was unpleasant, definitely. And I think I do feel like it helped me as I got older, into my sort of mid to late teens, wanting to really make something of myself and do something that took me away from that area.
Because it was lonely. I mean, you've said, I remember sitting, and this is the same era, I think. I remember sitting in my room thinking, I wish I wasn't me. I wish I was someone else. I didn't fit in at school or have a group of mates. The biggest thing for me then was the feeling of being lonely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was... all I had in around that time was cricket. That's the only sort of release I had of feeling like I had a life, I guess. Having some sort of outlet to talk to people, to make friends. And right now, as soon as I left school, I didn't keep in touch with anyone from school. There was no one that I felt particularly close to or made really good friends with.
I bet they tell a different story now.
Probably, yeah. I've had a few asking for tickets over the years as well, which they got a nice no to. But
good for you.
But yeah, I think that probably pushed me more towards cricket because I had that nice environment at the cricket club that I played at. I've got friends loads of mates there that I'm still friends with that have been to watch me through my career, followed my career, and we still catch up now.
But that must have been weird, because you knew there was nothing wrong with you when you're at the cricket club. You can make friends, you can be sociable, and yet when you're at school, they're not letting you do that. I mean, was it the cricket that they focused on? They're always looking for something that singles you out from everybody else.
Yeah, I think that didn't help, the fact that
everyone else was football, but you could play football.
Yeah,
but cricket...
I felt like I was a decent footballer, but because I played left back because they didn't want. I did, you know what I mean? I just felt a little bit like he can just play over there. Yeah. And it wasn't like I could score a goal and they wouldn't celebrate with me, sort of thing. It was that kind of that feeling that I had. But yeah, I think cricket, me loving cricket like I did, definitely sort of made them think differently of me.
Burnley Cricket Club we're talking about. A lot of people listening to this, even cricket fans, Jimmy, won't know about the role that cricket clubs can play in a community. I mean, not unlike some other sports, but there is something really civilising about cricket. My godfather ran a little cricket club in Romley outside Stockport, and we had the wake after his funeral there, and the young people in particular that just wanted to let us know that he had played such an important role in their lives. I was really taken aback by that. It's a huge thing, a good cricket club.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And there are still so many out there, but Burnley was very much that sort of environment where everyone looked out for each other, and there were so many people there willing to help you. If you're a kid coming through, they'd want to try and help make you improve as a cricketer, but also just make you feel welcome and make you feel part of a team. There was no sort of politics or anything like that sort of can happen at certain clubs for wrestling for power or whatever, and this was really a nice place to go and spend time.
And it was more than cricket then. It was the things that school should have been. It was where you could make friends. It was where you could have a laugh with people. It was where you felt accepted.
Yeah, definitely. It was a place I fit in, definitely, yeah. And yeah, some people get that at school, but there's plenty of people out there that do have to find something else outside of cricket, and I was one of those people. Outside of school.
And some people don't get it anywhere, I suppose, we have to remember. Did your mum and dad have any idea? I mean, they must know now because you've written about it. Did they have any idea how miserable you were?
Yeah, well, speaking to them now, my mum definitely felt that there was something not right. But obviously she didn't want to make a thing of it. So and then I'm not comfortable talking to anyone about it. So it was actually quite hard to, when she said she knew about it, it's difficult to, I wish now I would have spoken to her about it.
Well, you've been very powerful in the whole realm of men talking about their feelings, haven't you? And how things have changed in the course of your career and things that you've done and conversations that you and your wife have opened up that would have been very unlikely 20 years previously. So that's probably why, because you've carried this sort of consciousness of not talking about it when you were young.
Yeah, that's definitely helped, yeah.
If this was the Hollywood script of your life, obviously having some shitbags at school not being very nice to you would have equipped you perfectly for dealing with the sledging against the Australians and something like that. But there probably is some truth in that somewhere. A thickness of skin gets developed, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. I think I was 20 when I made my debut in Melbourne, and I played a bit of county cricket before that. And going there, and I think there was 50 or 60,000 people, Australians, in the ground, just hurling abuse from the minute they got into the ground to the minute I walked off the field. And that was really eye-opening for me, because I played in front of 300 or 400 people before,
sure,
maybe 1,000 people. I've not experienced anything like that. But I think as I've got older, again, you learn to deal with that in a certain way. I've just always tried to fuel it, whether it's the supporters, whether it's the players that you're playing against, any sort of sledging or whatever you want to call it,
sure,
abuse.
Is that the wrong word to use? Because you said banter earlier when really we were talking about bullying. I say sledging and you're saying abuse. They're both examples of dialing it down, because we're trying to say, it's not that big a deal, made me a stronger character. It bloody hurts sometimes.
It can do, yeah. And I know that I've been on a cricket field, I've been guilty of stepping too far sometimes with what I've said, and I think, it's definitely calmed down though in the last few years.
You wouldn't get Michael Clarke saying "get ready for a broken fucking arm" these days, which he said to you.
No, you wouldn't. No.
Well, he got into trouble for that at the time, to be fair, didn't he? That was in Brisbane, I think, when the microphone picked it up. So if I'd met you at 14, when you're at school, and your life, as it were, is centred on the cricket club, but you obviously have to, apart from that brief period when you didn't, you have to schlep yourself to school every day. I say, what do you want to be when you grow up? At 14, what would you have said?
I've no idea. I think, I look back at at school. I did my GCSEs. I think I got my best marks were in English. I got 2 Bs in language and literature. So I thought, right, I'll do that for A-level.
Right.
Because I'm not good at anything else. And I think I did business studies as well, something like that. But then cricket took over during my A-levels, and I started playing a little bit more senior cricket. But before that, I was thinking, right, I'll do English, and maybe I love sport, so maybe I can go into sports journalism and use that.
Yeah.
So that's probably where I was heading. I thought university maybe after, just because that's what everyone does. But I feel very fortunate that I didn't have to go down
the till's open. Lineker tells the same story. He does exactly the same thing. He thought he'd go and be a football journalist. If
is that right?
Yeah, if he didn't. And it is this physical spurt that is the game changer, which happens about now. You kind of suddenly become physically different and your game changes as a consequence. That must have felt weird.
Yeah, well, I could feel the sort of the growth happening, and then it wasn't. I think it was over a winter, and then so it would have been February maybe. We start winter nets for Burnley, the indoor school at Burnley Football Club, and the ball starts coming out my hand like 10, 15 miles an hour quicker, and everyone started to look round, and even the senior players like, bloody hell, like, what's happened here? And then I broke into the Burnley first team that summer as a 15-year-old, and then things literally just went lightning fast after that.
And that's in the Lancashire League.
Yeah,
That's no picnic.
no,
And that for a lad, for a boy, that's tough.
yeah. I mean, again though, I think it really helped my development. There's some great players in that league. We had some great overseas players. Some, back when franchise cricket wasn't a thing, you'd get really good overseas players, test players who'd come and play a summer of club cricket. So I was bowling at really good players, and I think that getting those players out, that then gives you confidence, and you just kick on from there. 5
wides in your first over, I think.
Yeah.
So it's an inauspicious start.
Nervous start.
Yeah, inevitably. And do you forget your age in those sort of contexts? When you're like 2-3 matches in and you're bowling out grown-ups, you forget that you're still very wet behind the ears. You're just a cricketer.
Yeah. As soon as you see your name on the team sheet, they stick it up on the notice board inside the club during the week, then you're trying to keep your spot in the team. You're trying to obviously try and help your team win, but also try and stand out so that you get picked in that team the week after.
I love the moment. I love the way you tell the story of just this, almost to your own, well, it would be to your own shock and confusion. The ball is just flying out of your hand considerably faster than it ever had done before. Your mate Michael Brown said something about a talent like you was never going to be missed. And a bit later in the story, I think it's his mum who plays a bit of a role in bringing you to somebody else's attention. But did everyone enjoy that moment, or did some people get a bit jealous or like this?
No, I don't think anyone got jealous. I had 2 really good mates who were already in the sort of Lancashire county system at 14 and had been for a few years. So I think they were just happy that, I think I was a year older than them, but they were happy that I was getting to experience what they'd experienced. But I don't think there was any jealousy. There was sort of, the typical older guys at a cricket club going, I'm not sure he's ready yet.
Stroking their
especially
beards.
bowling wides like I was. No, he needs a couple more years yet.
What would you say to someone who doesn't follow cricket closely, or even at all? Because there'll be people listening to this who, believe it or not, they're here for me, not you. Which I grant you sounds unlikely. But what is it about pace bowling that is so magical or iconic, or why it is something that everybody that witnesses it takes an interest in?
Well, I think fast bowling for me, the reason I fell in love with it, watching it, was that it's the theatre behind most things that happen in cricket. I think there are exceptions to the rule. Shane Warne would be one as a spin bowler. He would create theatre, but generally the theatre is created by fast bowlers, bowling intimidating spells, getting the batter hopping around the crease, bowling at their head. And I think that does, I remember back thinking about Alan Donald spitting and snarling at Mike Atherton in a spell. And that, for me, is what I watch cricket for. I don't watch it for people hitting sixes and the fancy stuff you get now. I want to see theatre. I want to see like a real story develop over, a couple of hours. And that's what you get in Test cricket. So for me, that's what I wanted. Again, it's that emotional side that I want to bowl that spell and start snarling at the batter and get them, uncertain about what to do. How do I play against this guy? That's what I wanted to be, the guy that did that.
Because when you're didn't, when you were at school and you thought that no, mum and dad will tell me to fight back or to stand up for myself, and that won't work. On a cricket pitch, it does work. It's a bit simpler.
Yeah, but I think on a cricket field, for me, if my back's up against the wall, I know exactly what to do. Like, I know if I'm batting, if someone's sort of verbally sort of going at me, I'd know exactly what to do. I'd just sort of, it'd make me more determined. I'd watch the ball harder. You just all your senses sort of get heightened. If I'm explaining that well,
you are, because everything makes sense on a cricket pitch.
Yeah, but then it's back at school. I didn't have anything to fall back on. I didn't know what that would look like in that situation. Whereas on a cricket field, give me a ball and I know exactly what to do with it.
And you felt safe on a cricket field.
Yeah, and I knew I had 10 other guys that would have my back.
It's a big part of it, isn't it? We come back to that. You come back to it a lot in the book, that sense of camaraderie. It's why one of the episodes in 2012, I think, was so difficult for you, but we'll get onto that. When did you start letting yourself think you might be destined for things beyond the Lancashire League? I suppose when Michael's mum rings Lancashire's academy coach to say this, everyone's talking about this lad, you better have a look at James. You're still James Anderson back then.
Yeah.
Would you have joined in with? I mean, would you have known what she was talking about? Would you have been aware of the fact that people were beginning to think that perhaps you had a path ahead of you? Because if they were aware of it, you must have been.
I can't remember thinking that this is what I'm going to do.
Really?
Now I'm in the Lancashire setup, because I was playing. Once you step up a level, you're then in a team with even better players and who do the same thing as you. So I'm like, right, I'm competing with these guys now as well as at your club. So I just thought, my mindset was just to do as best I could at every level that I got to. So from 15, everything went so quickly to Lancashire. Then I played for Lancashire under-19s when I was 17. Then the second team. Then get a contract at 18. So in 2 or 3 years, everything happened really quickly. But at each point, I was just thinking, right, you don't know how long this is going to last. It's nice that you've got a red rose on your shirt, so just enjoy it while you're here. And that continued right up to my England debut at 20. I thought, well, this is incredible. I've got an opportunity here. There were loads of people injured. I don't know how long this is going to last. As soon as, Andrew Caddick and Darren Goff are fit again, they'll come back in and I'll miss out. So I just thought I'll enjoy it while I'm here. But thankfully, at each stage, I did well enough for someone to go, actually, we'll stick with him. To stick.
So you had quite a philosophical attitude to it then, which means that when disappointments came, it was a bit easier to take them in your stride. I mean, some of them are injury related, which must be very frustrating.
Yeah, I think I've always tried to be like that. There was one injury in 2006 when I got a stress fracture, when I actually thought, I'd had a really tough couple of years. I missed the 2005 Ashes, and then I was in and out of the team a little bit, and I wasn't bowling well. I thought, do I actually belong here? Am I good enough to do this? I get the stress fracture, which meant 6 months out, and I was like, I don't know if I can. Can I be bothered doing the rehab and working that hard again to try and get back to somewhere where I might play again or I might not? And then that was when Daniela, my wife, said, "Get your head out your arse. And you've got so much more to give. Just get through it. It'll be a tough period, but it'll bear fruit once you come out the other side."
What else could you have done?
Yeah, I've not really thought that through.
I wonder if she had.
No, yeah, I think she had thought about that. What else are you going to do? No, I think I was probably more thinking, right, I'll go back to Lancashire and just play, be a county cricketer. And,
right, I see. Because there's no guarantee at the end of it. You're going to put that 6 months in. You don't know, something could change permanently. You hear stories about people never being quite the same afterwards, and so that's a big investment to make with no guarantee of the return that you wanted. But she got you over the line.
She did, yeah.
Along with Kevin Shine, I think, as well. He played a role in that.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's without going into too much technical detail, with the stress fracture of the back, they thought it was my bowling action that caused it. So then I'd have to change that as well. So you're then thinking, right, if I've got to change the style of bowling, then will I be the same bowler I was before?
Of course. I mean, you're right. We can't go into too much technical detail because I won't understand it. But
I don't understand it either.
Well, that's what interested me. When did that start happening? Does that start happening quite quickly? It might seem like an odd parallel to make, but and I don't know whether you, like snooker, or also watch a lot of darts. I watch quite a lot of darts, and I'm fascinated by the yips and by dartitis. And when you get a player who literally can't just lift their arm up, but that's mental, not physical. But equally, you're now having people trying to tweak things and just saying, if you did that, then that 10 to 15 miles an hour might be 20, or that accuracy might improve. When you sort of become almost an experiment, or not an experiment, a project, or something that can be tinkered with, but it's still you.
Yeah, I mean I think that's the art of coaching, though. Being able to make the player not feel like they are just being tinkered with, or a little project for the coach. But yeah, it was a period then as well when England was so fascinated by pace. They thought, right, you could bowl 95 miles an hour and not 90 if we just do this to your action. And that's when I actually broke down. And it wasn't till after my injury that I sort of went back to just, right, I'll concentrate more on skills rather than speed.
And do you have people pushing you in the opposite direction at this point? I mean, because that would take quite a lot of strong will to say, no, this is what's right for me, not what you've been trying to get me to do.
No, well, that was Kevin Shine's approach. He's like, right, we'll go back to how you bowled. And Mike Watkinson was the Lancashire coach at the time. The two of them put a plan together and got me back somewhere where I was comfortable and enjoying it again. Because going through changes, and it felt awkward, felt really uncomfortable. Wasn't enjoying what I was doing, and my form fell off a cliff. So going back to doing something that I enjoyed was great.
There are moments, aren't there, throughout your career? I appreciate the stress factor was the biggest moment, but then, I love the Joe Pesci line about thinking you're going into the room to become a made man, and you allow yourself an F word at that point in the text. But it's not just the physicality. Sometimes the management changes. Sometimes they decide you're surplus to requirements, and you have a tendency to think. I think you do. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes you have a tendency to think that might be it now. That's not just a bump in the road. That could be curtains. That could be game over.
Yeah, always. But
it never was.
No. But yeah, I think you just. I don't know. I think I do fear the worst, and that's when, having family and friends around you to bounce things off and talk to, and when you feel everything's doom and gloom, they actually, when you think about things logically, it's not as bad as maybe things feel.
Yeah, because I think late 2004, you recognised that you were no longer an automatic choice, despite a pretty stellar start in one days and in Test. The hat trick at the Oval must have felt pretty special.
It was amazing.
Did that feel like when you used to watch them on the telly? Is that what it felt like? Is that what you'd been chasing?
Yeah, I can remember that so vividly. The actual hat-trick ball.
Sammy was the third one.
And I remember Andrew Flintoff picking me up off the ground, like, to celebrate. And the whole of the Oval was on the feet. Like, the noise was incredible. And I was like, wow, this is exactly how I imagined it to be.
But there aren't many people that happens to, are there?
No.
You get that absolute magic, and you achieve it. But I mention it in the context of then just a year later, no longer an automatic choice. It's easy to forget, because your career has progressed and ended in such an extraordinary, stellar place, that these periods of uncertainty and these setbacks were pretty much always there. It was sort of constant peril.
Yeah, but I think that's just the nature of any career, really. Certainly in sport, where you do have ups and downs, you have doubts, you have dips in form. like you say, you have management that changes, and
Because,
one coach likes you, one doesn't.
and also that pace versus So Fletcher and Duncan Fletcher and Troy Cooley pushing you back towards pace, away from
skill.
What you'd been concentrating on before was skill.
Yeah, I mean, but that, I guess I've always tried to, again, you just talking it through with, in particular, Daniela, like, and her saying, if when you've had a taste of it and you've got to that point of whether it's the hat trick or whether it's getting 10 wickets in a test match, when you have a taste for it, you know you can do it, and it's trying to find something in you to do the hard work to get back there. So
apart from Daniela, when did you start working on the mental side of things that helps you do that? Because I know that you've done some sort of it's hypnosis, really, isn't it? You've done some stuff that really would have been quite woo in the 90s when you were starting out, but which really worked for you. Why and when did you start looking around for things that might help you in that part of your game?
Well, I wasn't looking around. It was 2009 or 10, and a sports psychologist called Mark Borden came and joined the cricket team, England team, and after about 3 or 4 months, he was, we'd had a couple of beers, we'd just got to know each other a little bit, and he was like, I've got something that's a little bit off the wall, but I think it could really help your game. And he mentioned this hypnosis type thing that he did, and I was like, at first I was like, absolutely not. I was so skeptical. I was like, there's no chance I'm doing that, because when someone says hypnosis, you're like, what, the watch in front of your eyes?
Yeah. Start barking like a dog.
Exactly. I'm like, no chance. But he said no, and he taught me through it, and I was like, right, I'll give it a try, and it did really help. Like I used to get really angry on the field. I was searching for perfection, and it just helped me stay so much calmer, so much more calm in heated moments when I was practicing. And I just stayed more my thought process was more logical rather than emotional, and that worked for. Well, the probably 3 or 4 years after that was potentially the best of my career.
Why did that end? What that period? Did it not work anymore as a tactic, or did it not help you as much as it used to do, or was it just the fact that the planets aligned physically, mentally, everything? That was just the sweet spot.
Yeah, I think that was just the sweet spot. I think my career didn't dip after that. I still kept bowling well, but I just felt, the Mark, the sports psychologist, moved on. He went to do something else, and sort of just went our separate ways, and sort of kept in touch. But I didn't feel like I needed that in my career every single time I played.
And people will be aware of the milestones now that punctuate your career, the kind of 500 wickets, various records, spearheading England's first series win in Australia in 24 years, overtaking Sir Ian Botham's long-standing record. I don't mean to sound glib when I list all of these things, because most of us, when we were 13-year-old boys, we'd have given our right arm to have achieved one of these things. But do you have particular favourites? Do you have particular achievements that you are prouder of than others for personal reasons?
I think the one that stands out is the Australia win at the Ashes in Australia, first time in 24 years to actually have such an impact on a series, and it's the only win. It was the first win in 24 years, sorry, and we've not won since in Australia. So it's a big achievement. It's a hard place to win. To do it with that group as well. I had a lot of good mates in that group. I played every test, which is, again, for a fast bowler is unusual. I flew home between the second and third test for the birth of my second daughter for like 3 days. So I just feel like such a special couple of months that was, and I don't think anything else throughout my career tops it. And whether it's the personal milestones, they've never really done it for me. I think it's always been that there's no better feeling than winning a game of cricket with your teammates.
And I think it was I mentioned overtaking Ian Botham. You've said that was the first time I felt truly proud of what I'd achieved. That win in Australia. First time I felt truly proud of what I'd achieved.
What, in the 2010-11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What about, and this is a question that I think the proper cricket fans will be cross with me if I don't ask. When you team up with Stuart Broad in 2008, what does that do? What is the importance of a partnership when two fast bowlers are actually working in synchronicity with each other almost?
Oh, I think there's a few different things to it. The first one is knowing what the other person's doing, because it's not as simple as just you doing your job from one end while the other guy does his job. You've got to know what each other are doing, and you can kind of bounce off each other. So if Stuart was someone who would often get on a hot streak, it could take 3, 4, 5 wickets in a spell. So if I'm bowling at the other end, I'm just trying to build pressure so that he can then continue to do that and just do what he does. And similarly for me, if he might sort of intimidate a batter, bowling bouncers from one end, and I'm then pitching it up and trying to, just unsettle the rhythm of them. And I think also having him mid-off, so he'd stand next to me when I'm bowling, or vice versa as well. And because we knew each other's game so well, if we're having a bad day or something wasn't going right, you could say, are you doing this? Are you concentrating on this? You know how much this works for you. So little things like that don't often happen with players. Weirdly, it should happen all the time, but it doesn't happen that often.
Because of competition, because of envy, or because of, if someone else is getting loads of wickets, you want it to be you? Because this sounds quite selfless, what you're describing.
Yeah, it is, but I think more often than not, it's not deliberately selfish. It's more that someone's just focusing so much on what they're doing that they're not really thinking about what their teammates are doing. If one guy's bowling and the other guy's in the field waiting to bowl his over, he's thinking about that rather than what this guy's doing. So I think the best teams, the best partnerships in the world will communicate really well. And then as the years went on off the field, we became closer, and that seemed to help the partnership on the field as well.
Does the opposite happen? I wouldn't expect you to name any names, but do you find yourself at the opposite end to a bowler and think this we're no good to each other at all?
Yeah. I won't name any names, but yes. But no, I had it a few times. My favourite, I know me and Stuart had a good partnership, but my favourite bowler to bowl with was Graham Swan by miles. Because he was a spinner, he'd get through his overs really quickly, so I wouldn't have too much time to think about it, and I could get in a really good rhythm from the other end. So I think I might be completely guessing here, but I think I had more success bowling with Graham Swan at the other end.
Oh, really?
Than I did with Stuart. But things like that, they only happen if you're in a team for a long period of time. It's hard to develop relationships like that if you're not, of course, a constant in the team.
And this takes us right back to Burnley, doesn't it? Is that you, more perhaps than some of the great names in English cricket, really, really value the team. You're really a team player and teammates, and it's part of the collective effort and the collective achievement, rather than, as you've said, the individual milestones or the records or the being the most successful England bowler of all time.
Yeah, because for as long as I can remember, I played sport because I want to win. I've got a serious competitive edge, and I want to win everything whether it's playing golf with my mates at the weekend or whether it's playing for England. I want to win, and I don't get I don't get the same feeling getting 5 wickets and losing as I would if getting 1 wicket and winning.
Do you think some people do? Do you think some players do?
100%. Definitely. I know many players that as long as they've got their 100, they've got their 5 wickets, they don't really fuss too much about what the result is, which I can't get my head around.
No, and you never could, even when you were 12, even when you were playing at that level. That's really interesting, isn't it? It's a. Do you bring that into your coaching now that you're helping out on the coaching side? Do you? Not helping out. That's what you're doing now.
Well, try a little bit, but
Because when I was at school, we had this absolute arse who would always be, he'd always be banging on about team spirit, spirit, and obviously everyone knows team spirit is important. Everybody has a vague idea of what it is, but you either feel it. Talking to you, it really comes home to me that you either feel it or you don't. It's a very hard thing to instill. I think
you can't
teach.
Manufacture it.
I
definitely.
don't think you can.
No, it's something that, and I think that's why teams in whatever sport go through peaks and troughs, because when sometimes you'll get a team together that are great for 5 years because they've got the same players, or the core group are the same, and their sort of ethos is then sort of there for everyone to see. So if new players come in, they see how they have to behave and how the team, or what they need to do to help the team win. And sometimes you don't have that same core group, which then makes it harder to build that team spirit.
It's alchemy, isn't it? I mean, there's so many moving parts, and so many that's why you get magical coaches who seem to be able to marshal forces that other coaches can't marshal. A word just on the physicality of it, because again, people who don't follow cricket won't realise how remarkable it is for you to have remained at the top of the game for so long. I think you say in the book that when you get into your 30s, people start asking when a fast bowler is going to retire. What kind of things were you doing in your life to make sure that your body remained capable of these incredible stresses and pressures?
Well, I feel lucky that my body is naturally sort of lithe, I guess the word is. Thin.
Well, it was wiry when you were a kid, but I think you left that behind a while ago.
But because I was well aware that fast bowlers don't often get past 35, I thought, I love this. I love doing what I do so much. I want to try and push myself as much as I can and try and get as much out of me as I possibly can. So the training, the gym work, the preparation for games, the rehab, the sort of, the after a day's play, doing ice baths, saunas, whatever it might be, hot, cold, massage. I just try everything under the sun to make sure I've ticked every box to give myself the best chance to recover and be able to do it all again. So I think that's that. And I've taken a genuine interest in it as well, the fitness side of it. Yeah. I think you can't do something like this for a long period of time without loving the stuff that no one sees, the gym work and everything else.
And it's a means to an end. We're back to that relationship between investment and reward. You can see what the reward is. It might not be guaranteed, but you're not going to get it if you don't make the investment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you know who you remind me of more than anybody else when you talk like that? Andy Murray.
Really?
Yeah, because I think on two fronts. Number one, the absolute effort that is involved in keeping going for that long at that highest of levels. But number two, the still quite childlike glee about just being in the game. That notion of this is as good as it gets. And miserable gits like me who were crap at sport, when we watch people like you, we share in your magic and we share in your joy. But I also, with both of you, found myself wondering, not round about the same time actually in both careers, how much thought do you give to what comes next? Do you keep pushing that away? You can't go on forever. That's just physics, biology.
We'll see.
I interviewed Eric Cantona once, and I said, "Do you ever think about dying? Do you ever think about more?" It fitted in the interview. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you. And he just went like this. He went, I will not die. How'd you come back from that one? But do you give much? I mean, does it almost distract you if you think about it too much? You're just going to go, I'm still here. I'm going to do everything I can. You go into the room with Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes in 2022, and they tell you that you're not going on the tour, and you come out, as you say, it hits you cold, but you're coming back. You're bouncing back. I'm not going to think about knocking it on the head because I know I'm still capable.
Yeah, well, I do give the future a bit of thought. I probably have done since my early 30s. Right. What comes next, and the fact that I've not found anything that comes next is why I'm still playing cricket. But no, I think I I've always tried to think about now rather than.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and I feel like my whole career has been that. It's been the next test match, the next tour. It's not what's happening in 18 months' time. It's about next week or the next game. So I think that will be quite a difficult transition, because when I've not got that, when I've not got the routine of, going to the gym in the morning or whatever it might be, the nets with the lads, practice with the lads at whatever time, and then it will be quite difficult. But I'm quite happy with thinking, whatever comes next, we'll deal with that when we come to it.
And it will probably involve some coaching or some punditry,
bit of everything.
Your love of the game is going to make you, I'd have thought, quite a good communicator. You might finally get around to doing a bit of journalism.
Well, we'll see. But yeah, I think the fact that it will definitely be, there will be some cricket in my future, because I do love the sport. I'd probably see myself playing club cricket at some point, or the odd game here and there with my mates, charity games and stuff like that, just because I love being around it and the community that comes with it. So yeah, I'll definitely stay involved in it.
Well, when you first arrived at Lancashire and John Stanworth was the coach at the academy, he said, this is what he said about you. He said, absolutely zip all to me for the first 2.5 years. He was quiet, unassuming and quite shy. You're not anymore, are you?
Yeah.
You think you are?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
So on the pitch, you become somebody that you are never off the pitch?
Yes, definitely. But that was what, the sports psychologists that I work with, that's what we were sort of working on. If I'm too nice on the field, if I was too nice on the field, I wouldn't bowl well. So he was trying to bring out a different side of me, and there was a different side of me, but it would just get angry and frustrated with, more often than not with myself, because I'm not playing well. So I'd just get more and more tense and try and bowl faster and faster. So it was trying to control that, but bring it down to a level where I wasn't too nice. It was somewhere in the middle.
And you actually use numbers to track this,
yeah.
I think, with 7 being the optimum.
7's the optimum, yeah.
So that means I'm passionate, but not angry.
I'm in control.
I'm in control. Can you feel it when it settles on you?
Yeah, I'd say a 7 for me. If I think back, I am like completely focused. It's like the point where you can't. If you're playing cricket with 30,000 people watching, I can't hear a thing. I'm just so like, I've got tunnel vision. I'm just thinking about what I'm doing in that moment. And if I'm too nice, I'm chatting to the opposition. I'm distracted and not focused. And if I'm too angry, again, I'm shouting at my teammates and getting angry with people. So it's literally that the sweet spot was didn't actually happen as often as I'd have liked, but you knew when it did. It was when it was special. Yeah.
Do you get angry off the pitch then?
Yeah,
you do. What about?
To get terrible road rage.
Do you really? That'd be quite funny if someone jump out of their car and recognise you as they came around the corner. So it is. I mean, it's not. You're not like Mr. Zen.
No.
When you're not on the park, it is.
No, but I'm not. I mean, it's very rare that I'd get ridiculously angry.
And did you have? I mean, again, to come back to the tension between the team achievements and the individual milestones and achievements. Did you ever have ambitions, Jimmy? Did you ever? Do you know what I'd like to be, or do you know what I'd like to do, apart from winning the next game or winning the next series? Did you ever think I'd like to retire as the most successful fast bowler? Never crossed your mind?
No, never. I never set goals. I never had any ambition whatsoever, other than to play cricket for England for as long as possible.
Which I suppose is the answer to my next question, which is you don't have any ambitions now. There's nothing that you haven't done that you would quite like to do.
It sounds pretty sad, doesn't it? If I don't have any ambitions or goals.
But you've done all right. It's not like you're 14 and your teacher's telling you off. He's got no ambitions and no goals, this lad.
I live like, I don't know if it's strange, but like I've got a calendar at home in my kitchen and it's got the next week on it, and that is what I focus on, where the kids have to be, appointments or whatever it might be. That is
There's always something, isn't there?
Yeah, it's just week at a time, and we'll see what happens.
The autobiography, Finding the Edge, is out now in paperback. It's done very well. You must be really gratified by the. Were you surprised by how successful the hardback was?
I was really pleased how it turned out. Felix White, I wrote the book with. We've known each other for a long time, so I trusted him completely. And when we sat down before writing the book, we talked a lot about trying to make it slightly different to normal autobiographies, because we've read so many that were sort of just growing up and then into the career. So we starting at the end, waking up first morning as not being a Test cricketer for England was, I think, a really nice place to start. And I think he's done an amazing job with it. From short chapters, trying to make it snappy and just a little bit different to the norm.
But there's a lot of you in there. I mean, you put it all out there. There's no doubt for anyone who picks it up the role that Daniela has played in your life, and also the charity that she set up after you suffered miscarriage together. You didn't have to talk about any of that stuff ever.
No, well, that was something that Felix spoke to Daniela about. Wanted to make sure she was comfortable with.
Because it helps people.
Absolutely,
seeing
yeah,
stuff like that.
But I think the best thing that happened after that was her getting involved with the charity, and there's so many people that go through things like that, and talking about it and sharing your experiences makes the experience so much more bearable. And I think she felt like it was important to get things like that out there, to hopefully make people feel like they can talk about things like that.
No, but it does. Jimmy Anderson, thank you.
Thank you.